In 2018, I was accepted to go on an AYC mission trip to Australia. The beginning of that year, I was all excited. Everything was going smoothly. I was getting ready for the trip. And a few months before we were supposed to leave, the trip was in July, I started having severe stomach pain, and we didn't know what was causing it. This was a few months before the trip. So we went to the doctor, started running all the tests, trying to figure out what was going on, and we never could find a source of what was causing all of my pain. And we were getting really concerned. It was leading up to the trip time, so we were trying to do every test possible. Went to multiple doctors and couldn't figure out what was going on. So we just trusted God, and I went on the trip. Didn't have any issues while I was on the trip. Then I come back, we're going through the rest of the year into 2019, and I still have some issues throughout 2019, but it wasn't near as bad, so we thought maybe these issues had resolved themselves, but that was not the case, because in 2020, towards the end of the year, around September, I started having really bad episodes again. Just intense stomach pain, very, very sick, and we didn't know what was causing it. So we started the round again, going to all of the doctors. We had x-rays, I've had 6 CTs, I've had ultrasounds. We tried everything, and all of the tests would come back normal, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. The doctors didn't know what was wrong, and this went on for over a year. Just going, having tests done, waiting for the test results, and then you get your hopes up and you're like, okay, we think maybe it's this, and this test will prove that it is. And then the test is normal. And I laid there in the machine while the test was happening in pain, and then it's normal. And it doesn't show anything. It doesn't show what's causing the pain. And we went round and round with this until we were tracking what I was eating. Is it a certain food that's causing it? I went to an allergy specialist. We did the allergy test. That was normal. Just round and round, and we're asking God, please direct us. Show us what doctor to go to so that I can, be rid of this pain. We can find out what's causing this pain. So finally we prayed, and we're like, God, you've got to show us what we're supposed to do in this situation. And it was on a weekend, and I had a really bad episode, and I told my mom, I was like, find a surgeon, because we were really thinking that it was probably my gallbladder. And so she prayed and searched for a gallbladder surgeon in our area, and the name that popped up, we went to him, and on that first visit, he comes in, I'm telling him the whole story. In our minds, we're thinking, okay, it's probably gallbladder. If we can just, get my gallbladder took out, this pain will go away. And he asked if we've ever heard of SMA syndrome. And we're like, no. We've been to so many doctors at this point, had so many tests run, and looked at everything, and no one has ever mentioned this. And so it's a little bit frustrating, because we just want it to be something like the gallbladder, and so we can take it out and we know what it is, and let's be, done with this. And so we're like, no, and he begins to explain what this is. It's a very rare condition called superior mesenteric artery syndrome. And basically what happens is, from your stomach, your duodenum runs down, which is the beginning of your small intestines, and your aorta splits off on either side. You have your aorta, and then on this side is the superior mesenteric artery. And so your duodenum sits in between those. And what was happening was mine was squeezing off my duodenum so that my food couldn't go through. It's a very rare condition. We had to do a different type of CT to be able to see if that was what was wrong. So we ordered this CT. We did the CT, and it was the first test that came back and actually showed this is what you have. And so he called me with the results, and we scheduled surgery for that Monday. So in February of this year, after 2 years of being in lots of pain and not finding any answers, I went in to have surgery, and I had a robotic duodenojejunectomy. Yes, very difficult word. I had to read it a whole bunch of times, look up what it meant. It's complicated. Anyway, so I had that done, and our hopes were very high. This is going to fix the problem. This is going to be it. We think this is the entire problem causing all of the pain, everything. So once that surgery is done, and I go through a long recovery process, if you've ever had a surgery, then you know recovery is very difficult. And I now have a lot of empathy for anyone that has a surgery, especially on your stomach. So I begin to recover from that, I'm feeling a whole lot better, and I'm thinking, God's done it. He led me to the right doctor. We've had the surgery, we've fixed the issue, and now I won't have any more pain. Well, a month or so after surgery, I start having pain again. And so immediately it's very disheartening, and you go through a lot of why and doubt, and we thought we had done it. We thought that God had led us to the doctor, we had fixed the issue, and we would be done, but that wasn't the case. Went back into the surgeon. We discover, okay, we think maybe this time it's my gallbladder. I go in May to have my gallbladder removed, and we think, okay, this has got to be it. We had two things going on, at the same time, but we fixed both of those issues. Felt much better for several months, and then pain hit again. At this point, I'm feeling a lot of frustration, asking a lot of why, and just really not understanding why God would be allowing me to repeatedly go through surgeries only to still be in pain after the surgery. So we go in yet again, and in between all of these scenarios are ER visits, doctors, tests, the works. So we go in again, we're like, all right, we're gonna do an exploratory surgery to check to see if anything else in there could be wrong. And while we're in there, we're gonna take out your appendix just in case. I'm like, okay, great. That's like, we're running out of organs to remove, so if we can just remove the rest of them that can be removed, that's great with me. So we go in August, and I have the exploratory surgery. He removes my appendix, also discovers while he's in there that I have beginning stages of endometriosis, which can also cause a lot of pain. So after recovery from that surgery, I start feeling a whole lot better. So after each surgery, I felt better, and then after a month, 2 or 3 months, the pain would come back in a different spot or in a different way. So after 3 months of feeling great, I'm like, all right, this is it. I can share my story. I'm not in pain anymore. God has done it. He led me to all the right doctors. We figured it out, and God has healed me. And then at the very beginning of December, I start having pain in my back, on my right side. Again, very similar to pain that I had had before other surgeries. To say that all the frustration and doubt and not understanding came back would be an understatement, but I'm just being real. After going through so much for years, I've struggled with stomach issues my entire life, but it really hit home in 2018, got a little bit better in 2019, and from 2020 to now has been very bad, very sick, very hard to function. A lot of days of staying at home, not being able to do anything. Then to think that we had fixed all of the issues, only to be in pain once again, was very disheartening and confusing. And a lot of, okay, God, I don't really understand what you're doing in this moment, but we take it one day at a time. And you're probably thinking at this point, okay, like what kind of video or story is this? Normally, these stories go like, oh, I had this big traumatic thing, but God did it, and now it's all pristine and perfect. And sometimes God does that in stories, but other times He allows your story to be something that continues on. And that's something that this year has really taught me. No, I don't understand why God allowed me to have 3 surgeries in a 6-month time frame, and I'm still dealing with an issue that we don't know what it is after having more tests and an MRI just in the last few weeks, and still no answer to the mysterious back pain I'm having now. Even with all of that, I have learned this year to trust God. And the reason that I would even share this video is because I know that God has had a purpose for everything that I have went through. No, I don't understand what the purpose is right now, but I have been able to slowly see over the last couple of years of pain and sickness that God has been keeping me. He's been leading me on a certain path and putting me in places to do His work and to do things that He has called me to do that otherwise, if I had not went through all of this, I might not be doing those things. And yes, I still have a lot of questions that I plan to ask God when I get to heaven, and most of them start with why. But what I have learned through all of this is to trust God. My prayer for this year, and when you're going through difficult situations, you may not have a lot of words in your prayer, but my prayer has been, I don't understand, but I trust you. Because when you go to doctor after doctor, and you go through the machines, and you have the scans, and you have the tests done, and you build up the hope of getting an answer and then it being normal every time. And when you have prayer and you're like, all right, God, you're gonna do it, and you go to church services and you hear that God's a healer and He can do it, and you're like, okay, God, I believe you. You're going to do it for me. And then you may not see any results at the time. All you can do in those situations is trust. I don't understand, but I trust. The test was normal, but I trust. It wasn't an instant healing, but I still trust. I remember there was one night in November of 2020, a few months after the pain episodes had started and had gotten really bad. That night I had a very bad one, and the pain had eased up a little because they last for several hours at a time. And so I had rolled over to write in my notes app, and I asked myself the question, would you like to have a life where all the pain you've experienced never happened? And most people would say yes. Why wouldn't you want a life where all the pain that you've experienced doesn't happen? But my answer was no at the time, because I was already beginning to learn what pain can do for a person and what pain teaches you. And so 2 years later, asking myself the same question, I have to swallow a little bit harder, but my answer is still no. I wouldn't want a life without all of the pain that I've experienced, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because pain teaches us things that we can't learn any other way. It teaches us to trust. It teaches us to be more grateful, more thankful for moments, for joy, for those times when you are in a better place. I wouldn't take back all of the pain that I've experienced because it has shaped me into who I am now. I wouldn't be at the place that I am now without the pain that I've experienced. I wouldn't be the person that I am now without the pain that I've experienced. And I hope that whoever's watching this, whatever you're going through, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, situations that you can't control, financial trouble, whatever the situation is that you're in, just trust God. You may not see any answers right now. Everything may be coming back normal. Everything may be saying that it's okay, it's fine, but underneath you know that it's not. Just trust God. Know that what you're going through right now will mold you and shape you into who God is calling you to be. When you don't have any words to pray, just trust. When it doesn't make sense, just trust. When you're asking why, just trust. God has a purpose and a plan for everything that happens in your life, and He can use those things to grow you into who He wants you to become. No matter how complicated or how simple your story is, trust that God's got it.